Hello everyone, Stormy1 here. Today we'll be having an update on our upcoming severe weather sets, according for the potential for a severe weather outbreak that could occur from parts of the Southern Plains and then move further east by Tuesday and possibly into Wednesday across parts of Dixie Alley as well by early next week. Before we get started on this video, if you guys like weather related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do that stuff for all the time on this channel. Plus, we'll be having more updates on this upcoming potential severe weather outbreak over the next couple of days, so definitely stay tuned for more updates as well. We're going to get started with the watch warning advisory display, and it's generally mostly quiet in the eastern U.S., at least for the time being. There is a severe weather setup for parts of the eastern U.S. today, which we'll take a look at that in a moment. But we do have red flag warnings across several states here in the parts of the Central Plains, even back for parts of the four quarter states as well. And there's also some wind and winter weather issues for parts of the western U.S. Otherwise, it's mostly quiet, at least for now anyway. We expect things to get at least a little bit more active for parts of the Northeast anyway as well. Here's a quick recap for yesterday. This is storm reports at least so far, and this is one of the reasons why I did not make a video yesterday. Is because I've been watching the weather in my own backyard last night. If you've been following me on Twitter, you've known that I've been pretty active in the Lower Hollow Valley, posting tweets about supercells, rotating storms, and even tornadoes as well. We have an EF1 confirmed tornado south of Louisville, and we also had a big time damaging straight line wind from one of those supercells that went right through Louisville as well. That brought at least 20,000 people without power. And we also had a tornado possibly in southern Indiana as well. Meanwhile, as you get further to the south, you had a mix of wind damage reports and even a couple tornado reports as well. One of those tornadoes went through parts of the Panama City Beach area as well. So yesterday was definitely a little bit more of an active day as well. Now, the day before, things did not go quite as forecasted here. And this is Thursday, if I'm correct, if I can do the math right. But anyway, not much happened in Southeast Louisiana. The main reason why is that some people call it crap convection or crapvection, and what that is you get widespread showers and storms, and it keeps things more stable with the atmosphere as well. And it didn't lead to good inflow with some of those storms, and I mentioned about that with some of those storms won't have good inflow as well, which that will limit the severe weather potential. Well, which is good news. If we did not have as much convection out there, yeah, there could have been some tornadoes out there southeast of Louisiana, even in the southern Mississippi. We also had some hail reports back in Oklahoma as well, including couple significant reports as well. But overall, at least back on the 17th, it was not bad. Here's day one for today from the Storm Prediction Outlook here. We got a couple slight risks. You got one up in the parts of the Northeast that includes southern Pennsylvania, or eastern Pennsylvania, I should say, southern New York, even for parts of western New Jersey as well. You also got another slight risk, a smaller one, for parts of southern South Carolina, southeastern Georgia, and for a couple counties in northern Florida. The primary threat won't be tornadoes, but the greatest risk for tornadoes will likely be in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania and northwestern New Jersey. That's where we have a better wind shear environment. Damage winds will be the main threat. There could be some hail with some of those storms as well, as there will be some decent lap rates out there as well, especially on the southern mode. Day 2, which is tomorrow, hey, at least get a break for the severe weather. But it only lasts for one day, because when you get into day 3, which is Monday, we have an enhanced risk for severe weather for parts of eastern Texas into western Louisiana. And when we get to the probabilities, there is a hatched area which indicates for the potential for significant severe weather, and that includes places like Waco, College Station, Bryan, Huntsville, and Lufkin, Texas, as well. And you got the slight risk that includes places like Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth, Arlington, and Plano as well. And then on day 4, which is Tuesday, we got another enhanced risk for parts of eastern Louisiana, central and southern parts of central southern Mississippi, even in the parts of western Alabama. They do have some pretty strong warning with this as well. You can see here, I'll read this to you guys. Overall, given the very strong shear, the strength of the upper system, and the Gulf warm sector expected inland, a high-end environment appears likely to exist across a geographically focused area centered over the central Gulf Coast states, supporting potential for a substantial outbreak of severe slash supercell storms. And that is some pretty strong wording for a day 4 outlook. So things are starting looking pretty serious for Tuesday as well. Then on day 5, which is Wednesday, you got a 15% slack risk for southeast Alabama, parts of the Panhandle, Florida, parts of central southern Georgia, and also for parts of South Carolina as well. And there's nothing on days 6 through 8. But let's get started for what could be happening later this evening here. Right now, we do have some thunderstorms. Showers of thunderstorms ongoing for parts of central western Pennsylvania in New York as well. Let me move this out of the way so we can see this a little bit better. There we go. And you can see here how those storms will begin to progress as they do continue to move off to the east. And these little Boeing segments here is where we can see the potential for damage winds. And I think that's going to be the primary threat. After lap rates overall, it's going to be on the weaker side. There will be a little bit of an elevated mix layer, so that will keep things a little bit more slightly a broken line. But it can also help with the potential for some hail as well. And I think there is going to be an elevated tornado risk as well. And look what's going on as you get further south here. Yesterday, or actually a couple days ago, where we're talking about the possibility for severe weather for parts of Virginia and North Carolina. That doesn't seem to be the case now, and I'm going to show you guys why when we get into these forecast soundings. And this is the significant tornado parameters. You can see here there are some elevated numbers out there. Let's get started with the northern mode up in the parts of eastern Pennsylvania. And you can see here, small holograph, probably favorable for weaker tornadoes, but there is some wind shear going on here. You got wind direction of height, story to velocity values are there, decent amount of instability. There's also strong low of lap rates, but middle of lap rates are on the weaker side, which that can help with the damage wind threat as well. You can also see that with this at the surface as well, with the dew point, temperature line are spread apart at the surface. And you do have that elevated mix layer in the mid levels. It really, this will be favorable for really damaging winds will be the primary threat, and there could be that low end risk for maybe a quick spin of tornado or two as well. And as you get down to the summer mode in the parts of southeastern Georgia, you'll notice here that the wind shear is on the weaker side, but there is a little bit of an elevated mix layer in the mid levels as well, which could help with slightly stronger updrafts, especially when you do have elevated mid-level lap rates as well. There is plenty of instability, but then again, weak wind shear values out there. Honestly, I think the main threat would be gusty winds, and I think these are going to be garden variety storms or popcorn storms, and they form and they begin to collapse on themselves, and that's where you're going to get that potential hail and wind threat as well. I think the tornado risk is going to be very limited out there. I think the tornado threat is going to be very low out there. But when you get later in the day, you got elevated numbers in southeastern Virginia, but there's something else going on. Yes, you may got a decent holograph, favorable for tornadoes, decent amount of wind shear, even some instability, and even not bad lap rates and even downdraft cape values. But there's something else going on here. You got a very strong elevated mix layer between 700 850 millibars, and that's not really a good thing. That's going to have showers and storms are going to have a very hard time developing in that type of environment. Plus, there is some capping going on as well, which is also going to prevent showers and storms from forming. So, given by this environment, you're not going to see much way of showers and storms develop in this type of environment. If we do see a big thunderstorm, hey, it may have the potential for all hazards. It's a possibility, but I think the overall risk for severe weather in this type of environment due to this and this, it's going to be very low. And so I think a lot of those folks in those areas will probably stay mostly dry. And that's why we don't have a marginal risk in those areas because of that capping which is going on in those areas as well. All right, let's move on to Monday. So really over the next several days, it's going to be staying mostly quiet here. Our low that's been producing severe weather over the last couple of days will be finally moving out of the U.S. off to the northeast, and really by Sunday it's mostly quiet in the central and eastern U.S. And then you notice off in the Rockies, here comes your next system, and here's daytime peak time heating by Monday. You got a low pressure system in a part of western Texas. I think that's a 997 millibar low, if I'm correct. Yeah, right about there. It does show some thunderstorms developing along that might be a dry line set up right there. You got thunderstorms that form as far north as parts of southeastern Oklahoma, and even some showers. Maybe there might be some thunderstorms mixed in there for areas a little bit further south as well. But honestly, I think it's a little bit underdone with the development as well, which, the NAND doesn't handle reflectivity very well this far out. And you can see how your low does continue to move off to the east, but there's a new low that could develop along that front as well, and that's not always a good thing. And at the same time, you do have a big squall line of storms along our front as well, and that could contain all hazards as well, and even storms out ahead of it as well. And that's storms we'll have to pay attention closely if we do get any discrete storms out there as well. And that's also the end of the run, but it's an AM, it can change as well. But let's look at it in a little bit more detail with this setup here. This is at 500 millibar winds, and you can see here what's not good that what we have here is a negative tilt trough. And typically with negative tilt troughs, that can enhance your severe weather potential. And in the past, when it comes to negative tilt troughs, it has been quite significant. But not every time. I should note that because of other factors, but most of the time, anytime we have a negative tilt trough, it can really enhance your severe weather potential as well. And also should note that there is a crazy amount of divergence out ahead of this, and that's going to lead to a lot of lift out there as well. So we're definitely not going to have a problem when it comes to lift. And here comes when your secondary low could develop along your front as well. Still, then again, plenty of lift out there, and the trough may become negatively tilted again if we do see that low develop along that front as well. And that's something we got to pay attention to as well. And if we get a little bit more detail with this, let's move down here. Here we go. Let's check out the load of a jet at the same time. So you can see here for Tuesday, you got a very strong low of a jet out there. And really, you only need at least 50 knots, and that would be favorable for some severe weather. And we got a low of a jet that could be stronger than 80 knots. And that's pretty strong for this. And that's a pretty strong load of a jet. If we go back to Monday, you also got a pretty strong low of a jet from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up into the Oklahoma-Kansas border. So that's a very large warm sector. But when we look so let's check out dew points first, because there's a lot of stuff to look at here. So when you look at dew points here, anytime we got 60 plus dew points, that'll be favorable for some strong to severe storms. Even upper 50s could work too. We've seen that last night. Dew points last night were in the mid to upper 50s, but really 60 plus dew points is much better than mid to upper 50 dew points, which we'll likely have that. We actually got mid 60 to potentially upper 60 dew points out there as well. 925 millibar winds, which this could also indicate your potential damage wind risk. You can see here we do have some elevated numbers out there, which then again, 525 millibar winds, generally about 50 to 60 knots, and that could be favorable for some severe wind gusts with some of these storms as well. And check that out getting into Tuesday, 70 knot winds. That's pretty impressive right there. That could be an indication for significant wind potential. Surface base Cape here. get a little bit later in the day here, and check this out. You get at least 1,000 joules per kilogram out there, and not just 1,000, but even at least 2,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, and even some areas nearing 3,000. And that's pretty high for this time of year. Anytime we got up to 3,000 joules per kilogram CAPE, that's pretty high for this time of year. And that's pretty concerning right there when you have 2 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE for in the middle of March. Something you don't see quite often. Here's mid-level lap rates here, and there will be some mid-level lap rates out there, and that can help with the stronger updrafts, and that can also help with the hail threat as well. If we check out the superset composite, you can see there are some pretty elevated numbers out there, which if we do get a sound here, we'll try our best not to get a contaminated sounding. Let's try to find a more accurate sounding here for this setup here, and we will see what we'll get here. And you can see here, this is a pretty good sounding. Ignore the PDS tornado icon here, it's not very accurate most of the time. But either way, this is a pretty favorable environment here for all hazards, and even for including the potential for strong tornadoes as well. You got a nice holograph, you got wind direction of height, story to velocity values are over 300, plenty of instability. You also get an elevated mix layer in the mid levels as well, which could help bring in discrete mode. You also got elevated downdraft CAPE values and plenty of elevated lap rates values. So basically, almost all your ingredients are here for severe weather. And that's why I'm really concerned about Monday, is because with that elevated mix layer in place, that's going to keep things more on the discrete side, and that can lead to some nasty supercells out there as well. And it would not surprise me, at least from looking in this range at this point here, it would not surprise me if we do see some supercells out there on Monday. The condition seems pretty favorable for supercells out there for parts of, especially for eastern Texas. As we get a little bit further south, we'll go into southeastern Texas. You can see here pretty much a similar thing here, but just higher with the wind shear values. The wind shear values are higher. You're even seeing story to felicity values over 400. It's on the higher end. You got a nice elevated mix layer, plenty of CAPE. Downdraft CAPE is also variable. Lap rates are there. Nice photograph. Almost everything is here on Monday. So definitely, Monday is definitely a day to watch for. But let's, even into the overnight hours. I mean, look at this, into the overnight hours. It's got pretty favorable conditions here, getting as far north as the Ozarks here. Which if we check out instability values at the surface, even going for the overnight hours, there's still plenty of instability out there going through the overnight hours. So this could also turn out to be an overnight event as well. And it does expand as you go further to the north as well. And the NAAD here does show severe weather potential as far north as parts of the Ozarks as well. Southwestern Missouri, southeastern Kansas. It might be a little bit farther north for that, but we'll have to see about that. And here's Tuesday right here. And this is going to be interesting right here as well. Got plenty of instability out here, as you can see here. Even areas a little bit further up north with plenty of instability as well. And if we check out some other ingredients, here's dew points. And dew points are limited as you get further to north, but there is plenty of lift out there as well. But as you get further to the south here, plenty of dew points out there. I mean, upper 60s to right around 70 is good enough for severe weather. Then again, with the low of a jet, it is pretty strong, at least 70 knots out there. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much it right there. Let's check out the superset composite. Boy, it's got numbers as high as a 22. That's 25. That's some high numbers. But we're going to try our best not to get an inaccurate sounding, which will look pretty ridiculous. But here you go, and the NAM just goes nuts with the wind shear. Story to felicity values over 600. That is very high. And all you need is 150. You got up to 600 with story to felicity. Now, there is something else in the sounding here that could be a limiting factor. Similar to what happened a couple nights ago in southeast Louisiana, like I was saying earlier in the video. If you remember, I was talking about potential for widespread shower thunderstorm activity. I see that similar situation here. The problem here is if you want severe weather, which I know some people do not, most people do not, I should say, you will want an elevated mix layer, which leads to dry air in the mid levels, and that limits the amount of convection that can be out there. And this is what we call a pretty saturated sounding here. Your dew point line is pretty much right up along the temperature line. That means there's a lot of moisture from the surface all the way up to close to 300 millibars, or at about 400 millibars. So, given that said, there's a potential that there could be widespread convection out there that could limit the severe weather potential. Hopefully that occurs, because if we start to see an elevated mix layer getting here with some of these soundings here, that would be pretty bad, if I'm going to be honest with you. If we start to see an elevated mix layer, that's going to keep things more discreet, and that could lead to potential for supercells, and that can increase your severe weather potential as well. So that's another thing we gotta pay attention to, is with that elevated mix layer, see if it really kicks into gear. Because if it does, that would not be a good thing. As you can see here, as we get later in the day here, still favorable superset composite values, even getting into southern Mississippi as well. This is towards the end of the NAM run. And you can see here, then again, lots of wind shear, plenty of instability. Downdraft Cape is there. Lap rates is on the weaker side of things, but really, even without lap rates, there's still plenty of lift out there. You're never going to need lap rates to get these severe storms to get going. So, and also, then again, the elevated mix layer is a little bit more effective in this area in here, and that'll be concerning because that could then again lead to more discrete storms out there as well. And if we do see a stronger elevated mix layer kind of get involved here, that would not be a good thing at all. So this is definitely something we really have to pay attention to over the next several days here. But there's definitely some potential that this could turn out to be a pretty significant event. Let's check out a couple more models. We'll check out the Euro and the GFS. Here's the European model back on to Monday. Then again, a negative tilt trough. GFS, pretty much the same way with a negative tilt trough. We'll go ahead and moving on to Tuesday here. Becomes more neutrally tilted here. And what the NAM was suggesting is possibly another low developing on the front. If that does occur, that trough could come back negative again. That would not be a good thing. Here's the GFS. It doesn't really show a secondary low developing along the front, but the European model is a little bit further south of the low as well, and I believe it's stronger with the low as well. And then again, a lot of divergence out there. Even you can see a thunderstorm right in there. I believe that's an actual thunderstorm that the European model is hitting on at 500 millibars. That's way up there. So yeah, a lot of divergence out there. Let's back this up. Let's be more detailed with uh let's see here, Monday first. We'll go back down to 850 millibars. You got a strong low jet out there across pretty much mostly for most of eastern Texas out there, and that's going to help bring in those wind shear values. Here's the GFS, pretty much the same way, but a little bit stronger with that. If we go to the surface here, if we check out dew points here, you can see here pretty favorable dew points out there from the GFS and the European model. And the European model is actually a little bit slower with the system as well, which could lead to potential to be a little more amped at the system as well. So that would not be a good thing as well. If we check out instability at the surface, this is the European model. This is only at 3 o'clock here. If we go to about 8 o'clock here, actually back this up a little bit. Okay, well, anyway, looks like it's not going to get me there. There's a lot of instability out here. It's got widespread values of anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram, which would be favorable. And there's even areas of over 2,000 joules per kilogram. Here's the GFS. It's similar, but a little bit lower. But I think it's going to be underestimated just a little bit here. And something happened there. Not sure what happened there. But here's we'll link it to precipitation. You can see here for the European ball by 8 o'clock here. You've got thunderstorms all going out in eastern Texas. GFS pretty much the same way. If we move on to 1 o'clock on Tuesday here, severe weather could continue throughout the overnight hours in the parts of southwestern Arkansas, western Louisiana, far eastern Texas, and even for parts of eastern Oklahoma as well. It'll likely be an overnight threat for you guys. And here's 1 o'clock here. Our line of thunderstorms could be approaching the Mississippi River at around that time. Here's the GFS. It's pretty similar. If we look into the Louisville jet again, here's the European ball. You got a pretty strong Louisville jet out there. And GFS, pretty much the same way. If we get later today by 6 o'clock here, you can see how it continues to move off to the east. Here's 10 o'clock here, still for the European ball. And check that out. Louisville jet really becomes really involved as you get further north. But the good news up there is that there's not much in the way of instability as you get that far north. But, that could change. Higher resolution models may have a better handle of what it could look like further up north. But the better confidence area is likely going to be in parts of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and southeastern Arkansas by Tuesday. And here's the GFS when it comes to instability. We'll bring this back a little bit. You can see here plenty of instability going on out here, especially across southern Mississippi, southeast Louisiana, even the parts of southern Alabama as well. Then again, here's the European Mall, similar way. And if we go check out the dew points, here's a look at two dew points right here from the European Mall. You can see here about 60 plus dew points gets as far north as the Tennessee border for some places. Here's 7 o'clock here. 60 dew points does get as far north at this point here up into Kentucky. GFS is not as far north with it, but does get as far north as maybe as to parts of central Tennessee. Going back to reflectivity here, you can see here indicated by GFS model there could be a line of some thunderstorms, possibly as far north as southwestern Indiana. And the European model is a similar way here as well. But a little bit further to south here, you could have the potential for supercells as you get a little bit further to the south as well. And it really has to depend on to see what happens here off to the south here. And that could determine what could happen up north. Because if we see a lot of widespread convection down here, because those sources off to the south here, it's going to rob the moisture for areas up north. So there's a lot of uncertainty up here, but regardless here, I think the better confidence area is going to be down here. And getting into, you can see here in the overnight hours for about Tuesday. And then here's Wednesday here. Your severe weather risk could continue further to the east, but confidence is just pretty low. A lot of uncertainty should get to Wednesday, but we'll have a better idea as we get closer to Wednesday as well. But anyways, guys, that's all we got today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button if you do like my channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications to never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put a comment section down below. Or if you guys have questions, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.